Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. My name's David. I hope you've had a great day or having a great evening, wherever you are. We're going live with PTE Listening. I'm going to guide you through the listening test, methods and test skills to use for test day. So grab a pen, grab a piece of paper. We're going to be here for about 20 or 30 minutes. Try and stay the whole length of time with us. And we're going to learn the methods, useful information to use to master the listening test for PTE. Okay, it's going to be fun, interactive, and we're going to get stuck in. Are you ready? Let's go. Grab a pen and paper so you've got something to write down so that you're always doing something during the session. Can I ask you to read this list with me? This is some of the vocabulary you'll see in today's listening tasks. So I'm going to read them out. Nouns, millennia, an ecologist, interconnectedness, species, verbs, to outsource, to outweigh, and collocations. We have to hear collocations to remember them. So let's go. Is born of our landscape, is deemed to be, is mediated by, to wage conflict, to rely on, to be on the brink of, to have faith. A colossal scale, coping mechanisms, the gender gap, a stigma attached to, the voting booth. Okay, they're collocations. They're strong, colourful, and illustrative phrases that you can use in your writing, and we need to recognise them when we're listening. All right, so let's get stuck in. We're going to do summarised spoken text. We're going to talk it through. We won't do it in this session, but what we will do is have the method in front of us so we're able to know what to do on test day and we can practice. I can't give us any feedback because there's no space to do that. This is what it looks like. On test day, you'll see exactly the same thing in the test room. You're going to listen and take notes. Taking notes is an expert skill that you're going to master by repeatedly doing and knowing what to do. You're going to take notes on 6 to 8 keywords, or the major ideas of the text, the audio text. And we're going to use the E2 language framework. And I'm going to explain that in a moment. You're going to write 50 to 70 words. That's the limitation. You can't write more. You shouldn't write less, or you won't get maximum score, which is what you're aiming for. We're going to check the length, make sure it is the right length, the content, the grammar, the vocabulary, the spelling, and the punctuation. So it's a writing task in response to an audio text. There'll be a couple of these in the test, and here's the framework. The speaker was discussing, he mentioned, he described, he talked about, he discussed, he suggested that. So what we do on test day is we have a piece of paper in front of us, That's known as the erasable pad. The erasable pad's in front of us. We're going to write on the erasable pad the letter D, the letter M, the letter D, and T, and D, and S. DMD, TDS. DMD, TDS, which is the key to this task, as well as retail lecture. The speaker was D discussing, he M mentioned, he D described, he T talked about, he D discussed, he S suggested that. So we're going to practice DMD, TDS, DMD, TDS. We write it down on our page. So when we're listening, we take a note beside D, topic, a note beside M, keyword, a note beside D, keyword, a note beside T, keyword, D, keyword, S, keyword, DMD, TDS. So that when we write back, we're going to put our notes into our framework. What is the framework? The speaker was discussing eggplants. He mentioned how they have become a popular vegetable. He described how there are various ways of cooking eggplants along with other vegetables. He talked about how they're good for our health and will lead us to a longer life. He discussed how more people are getting into vegetarianism these days, and he suggested that we should all shop at the markets. DMD, TDS. Whatever they said, we write down short phrases. We're taking content words, which are nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs, names, numbers, and main ideas, listening to the main ideas of the speaker, writing them down in 6 to 8 short phrases. We end up being able to summarize by using our note-taking skills and synonyms from what the speaker said. So we're trying to use our own language in a way to describe or retell what the speaker said, summarizing their ideas by using synonyms and paraphrasing. I'm going to play a text, and I want you to listen and take notes. Are you ready? So on your pad in front of you, we're going to write the letter D, M, D, T, D, S, and we're going to listen for the main ideas. The audio will probably go for about a minute or a minute and a half. Are you ready? Let's go. DMD, TDS, and we're going to practice taking notes.
In almost all elections in every European country, more men than women vote for radical right-wing parties. Still, on average, as many women as men identify with a radical right-wing ideology. This gender gap is mainly due to the fact that voting behavior among men is generally less strongly influenced by the stigma attached to many radical right-wing parties. It seems that men are therefore less influenced by the opinions of others when assessing a party's policies. However, this does not necessarily mean that they make better choices in the voting booth. It could be interpreted as showing that women are on average less faithful to their own beliefs when voting. However, you could also say that women take more information into account when making their choice. After all, the stigma attached to a particular party may contain valuable information about, for example, the reliability of that party.
Right, now what we're doing is, after having taken our notes, we've written down the key words, we've used symbols if we need to, we've used abbreviations and shorthand, is we end up with some notes that we're going to put into our framework. So if we look at the transcript here, we see that we've got explanations, descriptions, things, and actions. We're going to use those notes that we wrote down and put them in the framework D, M, D, T, DS. So we don't have to use all the letters, but what we're doing is framing our content in our structure to write a response of 50 to 70 words, summarizing the main ideas of the text, using our own words where possible. Ta-da! DMD, TDS. The speaker was discussing male and female voting patterns. Firstly, he mentioned that men are more likely to vote for radical right-wing parties, taking our notes. He then talked about how, despite this, as many women hold right-wing views as men. Finally, he suggested that women are more reluctant to vote for far right-wing parties due to the stigma that is attached to them. From our notes, we typed them into the framework and we had a full 10 minutes to do the task. We used the full 10 minutes because we won't get that time back elsewhere in the test. All good? Yeah, you'll be able to review. Yeah, you'll be able to review this video afterwards, play it back on YouTube and move fast forwarding through to the part that you want more information on, yeah? Beautiful, great question. Will there be a summary after the class uploaded separately? What you're able to do is to take advantage of the practice tasks that are on the platform. And that's what we want you to do, is to learn the method and practice from the platform. So I suggest you write to student support group, that's help@e2language.com or hello@e2language.com, and ask them if you can access practice materials after the class. What a good idea to pop some up on the YouTube channel as well. But for the moment, we're going through the instructions and access off the platform. Hopefully that's helpful. Now, I'm not going to get you to do it, but we're going to get you to understand that that is what the task involves, and that is the method that will work for you to get you a 90. You'll be marked on content, length, grammar, vocabulary, and spelling. All of those language features you can master through practicing off the platform or developing your skills in such a way that you don't make mistakes. You're trying to write error-free sentences in a paragraph of 50 to 70 words using that structure, DMD, TDS. All good? Okay, now that's the 10-minute task. Each of the other tasks in listening, and there are 8 altogether, we're going to take 2 to 3 minutes to do. Multiple choice, choose multiple answers, we're going to take about 2.5 to 3 minutes. All the other tasks, you're going to manage your time by taking 1.5 to 2.5 minutes for each of those tasks, or you will run out of time in the test. Let's do this one. Multiple choice, choose multiple answers. Our method here is to read the prompt carefully to understand the key words from the prompt. We've got about 7 seconds to analyze the question, yep? Then listen carefully and take notes. The reason we're taking notes is because then we stay focused on the information in the audio, because we only hear it once. If we read and listen at the same time, we're reading information that's not correct. Remember, there are incorrect answers in there. So we're feeding incorrect information in while we're listening to the answers the information that we need. So listen only and take note. Then from your notes that you've written on your pad, you're then going to read the options and select the ones that are correct and eliminate the ones that are incorrect. Remember, multiple choice, choose multiple answers means that there's more than one answer. In fact, there'll be 2 to 3 correct answers with each of these tasks. Don't choose an option just because it was mentioned, because the words may match the text, but they may not answer the prompt. So check for meaning, yep? There is negative scoring and a couple of these in each test. Negative scoring works like this. If 2 or 3 answers are correct, you'll get a mark for each of them, yep? And you might end up with 2 or 3 marks. However, if you choose one that's correct and one that's incorrect, you'll get 1 and -1, which will be 0. Whereas if you just chose 1, you'd get 1, which is worth more to you. So the clue is only choose correct answers. So if you're uncertain, don't select it because there's a chance it could be a -1 that you've given yourself. All good? We're going for maximum marks. Are we ready? Okay, so we're going to, what was the plan? To listen, to read the prompt, listen and take notes, and then make a choice. So in the chat box, after the audio is finished, type your 1, 2, or 3 answers in the chat box. Remember, 1 is better than a 1 correct one and 1 incorrect one. So only choose correct answers. Are you ready? Pen in hand, stay focused, take notes while you're listening, and select 1, 2, or 3 correct answers. Here we go.
But every time we turn our attention to the news, it seems like one more country has gone up in flames. So I've been wondering whether we should not start looking at conflict in a different way. Whether instead of simply wishing to end conflict, we focus instead on how to wage conflict. After witnessing several different kinds of struggles in the Middle East, I started noticing some patterns on the more successful ones. There is some science about this. In a study of 323 major political conflicts from 1900 to 2006, Maria Stephan and Erica Chenoweth found that nonviolent campaigns were almost 100% more likely to lead to success than violent campaigns. Nonviolent campaigns are also less likely to cause physical harm to those waging the campaign, as well as their opponents. And critically, they typically lead to more peaceful and democratic societies. In other words, nonviolent resistance is a more effective and constructive way of waging conflict.
Okay, now it's time to eliminate and select from your notes and from your memory. Okay, so we're getting some answers in there. Well done. Making our choices, A, B, C, D, E, F. 1, 2, or 3 of those could be correct. Up to 3 will be correct. So at least 2, possibly 3 answers will be correct. All right, we're happy with our choices based on our notes, our understanding, and our options. Let's check them out. All good? Okay. Countries are burning. That wasn't what she was focused on. And again, the speaker suggests that B, no, C, no, D, no, E, yes, F, yes. Okay, so A, B, C, and D are deemed to be not what she's suggesting. E and F are what she's suggesting based on our notes. Now, there were at least 323 is what she said, I think. So we're dealing with accuracy here. Yep, and matching meanings. All good? A, C, and E, B, C, and F. Good work. Now keep writing them in. Now, if you made errors, that's perfectly fine. You're going to get good at it. Yep, listening accurately for information and being able to take notes. A lot of people chose C. Yes. Now, I think what she said from our notes, if we listen, is there is some science about this. In the study of 323 major political conflicts from 19 now, there was a study of 323, but there were at least 323. There might have been many more. Yep. So there were 323 is actually not a correct statement. There was a study of 323 conflicts, and that's the kind of accuracy we have to listen for. Yep. But remember, we picked up on the words that she said, but they may not be correct. That's what we're saying, is that we hear 323, but in the context, that is not accurate to say there were 323. There were at least, because she did a study of more than that, or there was a study of more than those. We understand that, and that's good to learn from. Every error we make is an opportunity to learn.
But every time we turn our attention to the news,
here we go.
It seems like one more country.
Cool. Okay, and that's good to learn. Every time we make a mistake, it's not a problem. It means that we're going to solve a way of making a better choice next time. Okay, and we're going to learn how to do it by making errors. We learn more by making errors than we do by using our strategies perfectly in all situations. Now, that seems a contradiction, but we will learn from our mistakes. All right, summarized spoken text would be out of 10. Multiple choice, multiple answers will be out of 2, because there are 2 were correct. Now we're going to move on to filling in the blanks. This is what it looks like on test day and every other day. Notice that there are blanks that we're going to fill. So we're going to notice the keywords, and we've got 7 seconds to prepare. Now, what do we mean by keywords? Well, we're generally looking over the text to skim it to find out what the text is about. We're going to read, listen, and write the words as you hear them. Yep, so we write first, then we're going to type them in. 1 point for each correct answer, and it's going to affect listening and writing. A couple of these in each test. Now, have fun doing this. Skim over the text to find out what it's about, and write the word as you hear it as accurately as you can, then go back to reading the text. Are we ready? And then type them in the chat box, of course. Let's go.
Over the last few millennia, we've invented a series of technologies, from the alphabet to the scroll, the codex, the printing press, photography, the computer, the smartphone, that have made it progressively easier and easier for us to externalize our memories, for us to essentially outsource this fundamental human capacity. These technologies have made our modern world possible, but they've also changed us.
All right, typing your answers in. And again, remember, we've got 1.5 to 2.5 minutes for each of these tasks, other than the multiple choice, multiple answer ones, yeah? All right, so I've got mine. Typing them in. We're ready to check the answers. Now, let's go. Series, photography, outsource, technologies. Yep, how did you go? Now, you probably did very well, because it's a task where you can score well in. Yep. Now, ignore the instructions, because what we're doing is typing in the blanks. Yep, that was listening, filling in the blanks, or FIBs. Yep, awesome. 4 were possible. If you got 4 out of 4, well done. Highlight correct summary. What do we do with this? Well, you're going to hear a recording and click on the paragraph that best relates to the recording. So these are considered to be paragraphs, yeah? Paragraphs rather than statements, because sometimes these paragraphs are 2 to 3 sentences long. We're going to notice the keywords and ideas again to give us an idea about what the text is about. But remember, only one of those is correct. So 3 of them are incorrect, which means we're reading information which is not going to match the audio text. Our job is to listen and decide which of these summaries best paraphrases and includes all the information that's relevant from the audio. So take notes while listening, again, to stay focused on creating meaning from the text by noticing keywords, content words, nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, names, numbers, main ideas. We're listing them and writing them down. Now, remember what happened with 323? We've got to give it a context as well. So listen and write down names, numbers, main ideas, things, actions, and descriptions. We're going to use our memory and our notes to eliminate answers that can't be possible and select the answer that is possible. Only one is correct. You'll notice there are round buttons on here, yeah? The round button means one answer. Square button means more than one. Are we ready? Okay, have fun. Skim over to find out, predict what the text is about. Listen, take notes, and then choose the correct answer, A, B, C, or D. Let's do it.
I start to ask myself, what happens to all the clothes that I don't buy? The stuff that isn't really cool or trendy, but kind of just sits there and rots away at these secondhand stores. I work in the fashion industry on the wholesale side, and I start to see some of the products that we sell end up on the racks of these thrift stores. So the question started to work its way into my work life as well. I did some research, and I pretty quickly found a very scary supply chain that led me to some pretty troubling realities. It turned out that the clothes that I was sorting through at these thrift stores represented only a small fraction of the total amount of garments that we dispose of each year. In the US, only 15% of the total textile and garment waste that's generated each year ends up being donated or recycled in some way, which means that the other 85% of textile and garment waste end up in landfills every year. Now, I want to put this into perspective because I don't quite think that 85% does the problem justice. This means that almost 13 million tons of clothing and textile waste end up in landfills every year in just the United States alone. This averages out to be roughly 200 t-shirts per person ending up in the garbage.
Made your choice? Okay, remember, only one is correct. Yep. Okay, people are brave to put in B, and the answer is, it's going to be A or B. The answer is B. Hooray! Okay, now why it's an hooray is because when you get it right, it's very exciting and worth celebrating. Yep. So congratulations on that choice. Yep. So well done. Congratulations. Awesome. Now, success is what we want to experience so that we can repeat it. So well done. Exciting that that's the correct answer. All right. Now you've done that. We move on to the next task. 1 point for each correct answer for highlight correct summary. Multiple choice, choose multiple answer. We notice that in this case, we've got round buttons again. We're going to listen and answer selecting one correct response. Yep. All right. What do? Read the prompt carefully to understand what we're listening for. Then notice the keywords and keep them in mind, but take notes while listening. Note taking really does work to keep our mind focused, on what's being said. If we didn't write it down, we wouldn't understand it and we wouldn't remember it. So we're processing information by writing it down. Eliminate the incorrect options, realizing that perhaps 2 of them can't be true, but 2 of them could be, and then we choose the answer that we think is correct and closest to our understanding. Don't read while listening, or you will get confused with incorrect information, and you will discover that if you do that. And don't choose the option just because the word was mentioned, because it may not answer the prompt. Yeah, we found that out before too. Okay, are we ready? All right, so figuring out what the text is likely to be about, listening and taking notes, and choosing one answer.
Why do the same coping mechanisms that get us through all kinds of life challenges fail us so miserably when our heart gets broken? In over 20 years of private practice, I've seen people of every age and background face every manner of heartbreak. And what I've learned is this: when your heart is broken, the same instincts you ordinarily rely on will time and again lead you down the wrong path. You simply cannot trust what your mind is telling you. For example, we know from studies of heartbroken people that having a clear understanding of why the relationship ended is really important for our ability to move on.
Eliminate and select. Okay. Heart surgeon, psychiatrist, matchmaker, or marriage counselor. Okay, I've got an idea. Now, that's about the length of time you need to use your comprehension. Yep. To comprehension skills to make a choice. Remember, that's what we're doing. And we've decided between B and D. Okay. It's exciting. It's like a roulette wheel, isn't it? So we're going to work out, is it B or it's unlikely to be a heart surgeon, unlikely to be a matchmaker. We're going to go for psychiatrist or marriage counselor. And we've got 2 for B and 1 for D. And the answer is B. The man is a psychiatrist. Okay, now there were clues in there. Yeah, in 20 years of practice, people of every age and background to face every manner of heartbreak. Marriage counselor's probably not the man. Psychiatrist is. Well done. Again, high five and congratulations for those who got it correct. Yeah, it's exciting to get it right, and that's the idea because we're going for top marks. Alrighty, party. Select missing word, SMW. What will happen here is if you read the instructions, you'll be given the topic in this part of the instruction. Yep. And at the end of the recording, the last group of words has been replaced by a beep. And one of these options will be the words that would have been said had they not been obscured with the beep. So speed read the options just to generally find out what it's about. Listen and focus on meaning. Don't take notes this time, but focus on listening to the tone of what's being said, the type of language that's being used, and the meaning. And then cleverly note the timer to see that as it approaches the end, that's when the beep is going to happen. And that's when we really need to be switched on as to what words have been replaced by the beep. Select the best answer quickly. If you don't know, guess. Because the longer you spend on it, that doesn't mean the more accurate your response is going to be. Again, don't read while listening because only one answer is correct. Focus on meaning, comprehension, understanding, and then make a choice. Are we ready? This topic is lake ecology.
I'm an ecologist and I study complexity. I love complexity. And I study that in the natural world, the interconnectedness of species. So here's a food web or a map of feeding links between species that live in alpine lakes in the mountains of California. And this is what happens to that food web when it's stocked with non-native fish that never lived there before. All the grayed out species disappear. Some are actually...
Okay, we got it. And again, it feels like it's instinctive. What it is your own logic, your comprehension logic tells you or guides you to the answer most likely to be correct. All good? All right, A, B, C, D, or E. Only one answer is correct. Again, instinct time has probably run out by now. Yeah, okay. Any longer, and we really haven't got any instinct, we've got self-doubt. All right, we're going for it. And it is A. So well done on hitting the correct answer. Nice work. Now, I can feel smiles on this side over here because once you start getting it right, you will experience sensations of satisfaction. All right, well done. Highlight incorrect words. How does this one work? Well, you're going to hear a recording and some words in the transcription differ from what the speaker said. So you'll hear and read different information. You're going to move the cursor to the first word, yeah? We're going to leave it there and then skim read the first sentence to predict what the text or get the gist of what the text is about. Then listen and click. So you're going to move your cursor along the text and click on the word that's different to the one you hear. So you read a word that's different to one that's spoken, click on that. That's the incorrect word. Yep, if you make a mistake, unclick it and then click on, because there's negative marking, which means that it's stopping people guessing. So only click on words that you know that are different to each other from what you read and what you see. All right, now, here we go. So I'm going to play it, but in this case, what we're going to do is write down the word that you see that's different from the word that you hear. All good? Okay, so skimming to find out what it's about. Here we go.
Those trying to have good careers are going to fail because really good jobs are now disappearing. There are great jobs and great careers. And then there are the high workload, high stress, blood-sucking, soul-destroying kinds of jobs, and practically nothing in between. So the people looking for good jobs are going to fail.
Okay, so typing what you think of the words that you heard that are different from the ones that you saw in the chat box. Yep. Of course, one is correct and what was spoken was correct and what was written is incorrect. Yep, that's how we're doing it. So the text that he spoke is the text that we think is correct. What was written is the text that's incorrect. There were 4 of them, weren't there? Yep. Okay, so time to do that. Ready? Checking our answers. Good work. Well done on typing them in. Succeed, careers, yep, then and also. Fail, yep, and one other. Let's find out. 4 and at, yeah. Fail, then, jobs, at and for. High five again for getting them accurate. How do I know? Because I can see in the chat box that what you've written in are the correct answers. So congratulations again, and feel the glow of success. Yep. So overall, there were 23 points to be scored in this type of test. Yep. In this type of lesson. Now, these are the type of lessons that you will see on E2 Language. This is the type of information you'll see in your live webinar classes. So join up, practice with us by becoming familiar with the methods and then practicing the methods and achieving accuracy by applying the methods to the tasks. Yeah. So it'd be great to see you in the lessons doing that. We've got one more, write from dictation. What are we going to do? We're going to pay attention, focus on meaning, listen for phrases, not words, first half of the sentence, second half of the sentence, and then write. Check the spelling and then submit. 1 point for each correct word. So it's a high scoring task. Are you ready? Here's the first one. Some people like to close their eyes, listen, understand, and write. Here we go.
Your room is down the hallway and to the left.
Next one.
I think we form social networks because the benefits of a connected life outweigh the costs.
There were 3 parts to that sentence, weren't there? Yep. And finally, the last one.
Our social relations are increasingly mediated by data.
Okay, we're going to move on. There are the answers there. Yep. Your room is down the hallway and to the left. I think we form social networks because the benefits of a connected life outweigh the costs. Our social relations are increasingly mediated by data. Beautiful. If you heard those and responded to them, well done. That's WFD, right from dictation. So in this type of session, if you were to score, let's say 50 out of the 57 possible, you're likely to score 79 in the test. Now, you know what you're aiming for and what you need. 41 out of 57, 65 in the test, 32 out of 57, 50 in the test. So the idea is that you pitch yourself at a level that you want to achieve and you aim for it and you keep going until you get it. If you did have trouble and you found that there were problems with lack of vocabulary or the speaking was so quick, we need to listen to more audios and get used to that kind of speed. We want to distinguish between the words and build our vocabulary so we recognize what the speaker is saying. We gather the main ideas by becoming familiar with this level of text. We stay focused and don't panic, then practice. Do the practice sessions off the platform and the assessments. Practice all the skills that you can with access to the E2 language platform. Register and join our live classes and take a mock test before the real day. So what that will enable you to do is to get a reflection on where you're up to and the score you're likely to achieve. If you're already invested in us, then take advantage of the tutorials and the small group classes. Awesome. Okay, so that's our familiarization with the listening methods. Yeah, there are 8 tasks in listening, and we covered all of them. There's a method for each of them in order to enable you to score the highest score, which is 90, that you can. I hope you found that useful. Yep, and that you are keen to learn more and keen to take advantage of the methods that we teach that will get you the results in the test. So we've had over 2.5 million students study with us. Yes, we've got a 4.8 star rating on Trustpilot, and we do get results for students because the methods work and they're possible to learn, to memorize, to practice, and then to get the results you need on test day. I don't want to take up any more of your time, but I do want you to succeed in what you're doing. So please join us here at E2 Language as often as you can, participate in the classes and take advantage of the learning materials that are going to help you achieve the results that you're after. My name's David, and it's always a pleasure to be with you. So thank you for joining, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.